Entering the news business in 2026 means fielding constant questions about an industry grappling with many potential threats. From media consolidation to artificial intelligence, for student journalists at Suffolk University, preparing for the future of news means learning to adapt from day one. Hello, and welcome to a very special commencement edition of The On-Ramp, an ongoing series that highlights thought leadership from Suffolk University in downtown Boston. My name is Francisca Beduya, and today I'll be speaking with graduating journalism students Maren Halpin and Chloe Carner. Maren just completed her tenure as editor-in-chief of the student newspaper, the Suffolk Journal. Chloe is an alumna of the Suffolk in the City student reporting program that's affiliated with New England Cable News. During their time at Suffolk, they've interned at some of the city's most respected news outlets, including the Boston Globe, 7 News, and NBC 10 Boston. Chloe and Maren, thank you so much for being here and welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Of course. Now, you're on the on-ramp today, but you're also quite literally exiting Suffolk and entering into your careers. How do you two feel?
I am just so excited. It just feels like I've spent the last 4 years just dreaming of being able to jump into this industry and working so hard for it, and in the classroom, outside the classroom, at internships and doing stuff for our student publications, and now just to be able to put on that cap and gown and say that it's happening and we're doing it and we're ready to take on the real world. It's a little bit nerve-wracking, but mostly I'd say the biggest feeling is just excitement for me.
I have to agree. I think it's so rewarding to think about how much effort that mentors have poured into your family, and now it's time to bring something home, whether it's a degree or experience, and I think it's something we all go through, so now it's our turn, and soon it'll be another student's, yeah.
Yeah, of course. I'm sure you guys feel a lot of emotions. I mean, you both are very involved on campus. As you're entering into these new positions, what excites you most about the future of journalism?
I think for me, the first thing I think about is how multifaceted it is. You can be in digital, you could be in sports, you could be in film and media, and find a way in news. And it's not so traditional as I think a lot of our mentors or even teachers have experienced, and exciting for us because we're going to navigate that, and also we have things to add to that. So I think this space is becoming bigger for sure.
Yeah, and I think joining it alongside other young people, and then also veterans of the industry who are so ready to take on that change too, has been so exciting for me. It's my student newsroom, I say all the time that it's those people that I spent in that little newsroom at the Suffolk Journal are my hope for this industry, and are the people that I know maybe aren't going to be in the same newsroom as I am right after graduation, but those are the people generally who I'm sharing space with now, who are ready to take on the challenges and who are excited about it, but still have that core of what journalism is and what it has been for decades and centuries, is just telling stories, holding power people to account, illuminating things that have been buried, doing these things that journalism has always done, but it's just doing it differently. And if anything, it's exciting to be joining at this point, that it's now it's our turn to shape what that looks like. And it's an exciting time to be a young journalist.
Yeah, of course. And as you said, the new generation is really shaping how the news will look. It's a business that's evolving very quickly. What are some challenges you both are seeing right now in the field, and how did you kind of prepare for them?
I think there's a push and pull between, I was kind of saying, how journalism has been and where it's going. That it's we grew up with social media in our pockets, with, cell phones and all that kind of stuff, but the generation before us that has also shaped the industry so much, that wasn't their experience, and that isn't how people were getting news for the longest time. So I think the push and pull right now is where is the merit in getting our stories on social media? And depending on who you ask, some editors and some people respect that a lot, and oh yeah, we're paying you to be spending time creating social and be doing that kind of stuff. And unfortunately, some people are not at that point yet. So I think that's been a big challenge that I've been bracing myself for. But it's I think when you go into a newsroom as a young person, being able to be no, maybe I don't have decades of experience under my belt, but I bring so much else. I know how my generation consumes news. I know how to get news in front of my generation, which we are the mystery audience. Nobody knows how to get to Gen Z but Gen Z. So I think it's really exciting to enter the newsroom. And it's valued. I've felt really valued in the newsrooms that I've been in so far, that it's no, we want to hear what stories do people care about? You're out in the world, you're seeing a different version of this city and of this world than we are, and that perspective is so valued. So it's knowing that, and knowing that the perspective that you bring has worth, I feel has been my biggest mental tool to kind of like get past those challenges.
I would just add on to that and say that maintaining that people-first approach is so important. And I think it's a question that newsrooms, whether you're doing print, whether you're doing web, maybe you're doing digital, or doing all this multimedia that we're getting back to, is the question that we're asking ourselves: where are the people and how can we meet them? And I think it's a responsibility that we carry, whether you're writing, whether you're carrying the camera, but it's not something that's left us. I think we're just figuring out ways to do this. We do a people job, like we tell stories. We share stories, we elevate stories that may have been hidden, and that's like the focus that we have to keep.
Yeah, of course. And I really liked your point about this is a people job. I mean, it's always been about telling people's stories, but a lot of our peers are getting their information and news from YouTube and platforms such as TikTok rather than newspapers and network news. As experienced reporters, how do you make the case for traditional journalism?
People are still there. People are still watching. People are still waiting to hear what's happening in their community. And I think people are still ready to give us the opportunity to share it. I think it's something that, whether we go back and forth with, there's a generational gap, or maybe there's a technology gap that we may not all understand what's at our fingertips now or how we use them. But I think it's this constant collaboration and understanding that people still want to know what's happening. People still want to contribute to the stories that are coming out, and whether they're getting it from a newspaper or they're getting it from their computer. I think it's the same approach that we carry, this people first approach, and also bringing our team with us, that in journalism there's no success that's individual, and I think this is true on both of our sides. And what we see, everything is a collaboration, and whether it's within our team or outside with the community, it's something that is pivotal, like in our focus.
Yeah. And also I feel like with that difference between like things that are just being uploaded by individual like non-journalists, kind of like what we've been heard to call like the citizen journalist, which there's a lot of value there. It's like there's only so many of us who are like trained for this job and who are lucky enough to get paid every day to do it. So the citizen journalist has a lot of power. But I think the important distinction for like the public to know is like what happens to get that live on YouTube or on TikTok or whatever it is, and then the work that a true journalist is doing. And it's like it goes through, there's like responsibility that like your journalist who is trained and who is paid and who devotes their career to this has, that you're kind of like ordinary, just your average citizen on the street who's recording something, which is so important too, just in a different way. So I think like the biggest thing is like when you're going to somewhere like network television, like newspapers, and like you're knowing where you're getting your information, you know that it's been edited and that's been fact checked and that there's a responsibility there and that there's like this is being upheld by the First Amendment in a way that like it can be helped by things that are being individually produced on social media, but it's journalism in itself is just like such a process, and there's a reason that it's like it goes through so many like fact checking and you're talking to your sources in different ways. So it's like the different mediums just bring different things. I feel like it's hard to know. It's hard to know like what's the difference between this random person posting on the street on TikTok and this person who has the title of journalist, but it's a media literacy thing, I think, for me.
You two really talk about having this critical eye and skepticism. I'm curious, throughout your time here at Suffolk, have you developed any surprising skills that are helping you to succeed?
This is a big question.
Yeah.
I honestly think that I was surrounded, my first step on Suffolk, I was built by a team who gave me something when I had no skills, when I didn't know how to pick up the camera or write the paper or be the face of the news, right? It was just the beginning, and I'm a product of that community, and I'm so thankful for it. But I guess something that I've learned during these 4 years is trust, trust yourself. Trust your audience that, they're ready to hear the news and that they're going to critique you on it, right? And it may not be great. Trust the team that you have. Like, nothing's a one-time effort. And trust that if it's arising to you, the same way we said, news is not traditional anymore. So if you're seeing something that's arising on a social media platform, Reddit, people being like, hey, this is happening. What's happening here? Like, people are interested. Trust that this is still relevant and that you're capable of doing it. And again, that you're doing a people job and people want to hear that original voice, especially in a time where AI is rising and originality is falling and things are becoming more fast-paced, that people are still in the middle. We are still people reporters figuring this thing out, and trusting that, like, it's going to be okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
of course.
I feel like for me too, it's a lot of that like authenticity that coming in. I also I had never written a piece of journalism before college.
Really?
I came in as a politics, philosophy, and economics major, and like fell in love with the journal. And it's just like it was such like a never looked back, and it was like the best discovery of my life. But I was 18, and I all of a sudden discovered this. So there was so much learning that happened so quickly. That's just like how to be a reporter, how to write journalistically, like so many skills. I feel like the one thing kind of going into professional spaces that I've learned that's been like so refreshing is just like being authentic. That I feel like you're going into these spaces that like, you know, have been dominated by a different kind of like category of person up until now. So to be able to go into these newsrooms and see that your coworkers want you to show up authentically, that your audience wants you to show up authentically. Like I have the most like dried, like sarcastic sense of humor. And it's like people want to see that. Like people like when you're talking to your sources, people want to know who you really are. Like there's no reason to be that like buttoned up version of like what you envisioned throughout your childhood a journalist to be. I feel like that's been like the most surprising thing, that it's like, no, like my sense of humor and like my quirkiness and kind of like the fact that I am a 22-year-old professional journalist is like a good thing. Like my youth is something that's like exciting to people and it brings a different perspective to the table, and like that's been honestly like something that I've learned just in the last year. That's like being authentic is just like, it's a superpower. That's the most incredible thing.
Yeah, it's so important. And you know, I really see that in all of your work throughout the Suffolk Journal, and you were a student reporter for Suffolk in the City. What was a favorite memory or a very pivotal moment for each of you in your career?
I know for me, the kind of like moment it all kind of struck me was when I was covering the encampments that were happening the end of my sophomore year in the spring, where we had a lot of students who were participating in the encampment at Emerson College. And I remember I was the end of my sophomore year, so not even halfway through college. I thought I like knew a lot more than I think I did. I was really now looking back at it, I was like, oh wow, I was just getting started. I was just a baby. But I remember there was one day and I did 9 interviews in one day.
9?
And they were heavy interviews. I was getting medical records and I was pulling police logs, and it was the heaviest story I'd covered. Obviously, I'd only been doing it for only like 2 years at that point. But I remember at the end of that day, at the end of writing that story, I had like things mapped out on a whiteboard, and I just felt this like responsibility to like tell this story that was so complex and like had so much energy, like so much motion charged behind it, and had so many complicated sides, to like tell this story right, because I knew that nobody else was telling this specific version of this story, that like this is what Suffolk students were doing in this moment. So I think that was the first time that I felt that level of responsibility, that it was like me doing well on this story means more than me getting a clip, means more than like if I make it on the front page of the journal, like it means something. And that was definitely like, that realization just hit me so hard, that it was like, this job has impact. And like, that's what I like, you know, coming in, I thought I was going to go into politics, and I realized that wasn't the space for me to have impact. So feeling that in that moment, I remember that was like, you know, first 2 years of college, I was like, okay, I really like this. It aligns with all of my skills. Like I'm down the right path and I love what I'm doing. But I remember like that spring and like putting that story together, we put out an emergency edition of the journal, and feeling that responsibility was like, okay, I have an ability to like make an impact with my career here, and I'm capable of it. Cause like it was a big story and I didn't think I was capable of it at first, but I did it. And you know, I'm still proud of that story. Maybe I would approach it even differently now with a couple more years of experience in my belt, but that was definitely like that feeling of responsibility and impact, and just like being able to do people's stories justice was so powerful to me.
I would say the same. I think back to my first Suffolk in the City live shot. I mean, you hear the producers in your ear, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And my first story was covering the campus climate on a very difficult topic, the Israel-Palestine conflict. And in a city dominated by college students, international college students, this was transforming campus. And it was a way more nuanced conversation than even I think at the time I had knowledge for. And that took a lot of pulling on my community. First, I mean, I had to go to literal like experts in the subject matter and sit down with them for going over this script, going over the interviews that I had, and making sure that the clips that I was choosing wasn't just a design aspect or a soundtrack, that like thinking about how there's so much thought that goes into what we're putting out there. Something that was very big that we don't think about is the visuals. What do you allow people to see? What do you put in their hands? And what can they think about based on the script? What are you incorporating? So all these decisions and choices. And the biggest matter was that I was working with students who had been blacklisted. You know, we were going to protest and we were covered from head to toe, and they were right down the street. I mean, Emerson, Harvard, Northeastern. These were students I was working with from these campuses, and it was an emotional story. It was heavy, and I think that's a part of it. It's a privilege, but it's also a trust that we have, like, with our audience and also in ourselves about the content we're covering, how we're writing it, because every decision matters. And I really think it's a privilege to be able to tell stories like that. Sometimes it's not just the biggest and the greatest and the sparkliest thing in the neighborhood. It's the deepest one. It's the most undisclosed ones that you get to cover. So that was definitely one I think back to.
Yeah. And you too, I mean, you speak a lot about that responsibility you both felt to, address the audience and really cover the story well. I'm really curious, did you have any guidance as you approached these stories? What was a piece of advice that you've gotten from a professor or mentor that helped you?
Oh, this is big. I would have to turn it back to you said it so well earlier. Be yourself. Be yourself. There is so much space for you. Whether it's journalism, and maybe that means news to you, maybe that means writing to you, maybe that means filming and bringing back content for users to see. Be yourself in everything that you create. I'm very big on, like, with my editing, I'm very big into the video side, so I spend a lot of time thinking about the choices that I make with the colors and representing communities and doing it accurately and authentically. And I would hope that the same way that I'm doing it for them, that they would have that trust in me when I'm asking them the questions, when I'm presenting media. So there's always going to be a way where you can display yourself and what you're raised off of through your work. Again, this is a people job, and it's so important not to get far from that. Especially in a time where the media we're seeing is being questioned and challenged, and for authenticity and also the choices in what's being covered, what we're allowed to see. So having that people approach and including yourself in it, that's very important to me.
Yeah, definitely. It's like people, it's all about the people at the end of the day. I think, like, the piece of advice, or kind of like the mantra that I will remind myself, it was going on a year about now since I was told this, but my editor, when I was a co-op at the Globe, I remember multiple times he said to me, you should be taking on the biggest story at this paper, which is insane to hear as a 21-year-old co-op at the Boston Globe. I'm like, well, the journalist over there is a Pulitzer Prize finalist. Like, that's a crazy, kind of thing to be able to chase. I sit in front of the wall that has my desk looked at the wall of every Pulitzer the Globe had won. So it's like being told that, like, you have the ability to take on the biggest story at this paper. And at first I was like, that's wildly intimidating. I don't think I appreciated fully in the moment, like, what he was saying to me. But now I think about it as, like, you or, like, myself, I am not any less equipped to take on the biggest story, to take on that front page story than anyone else. Like, regardless of experience or how long you've been in this business, it's like you are just as capable of taking on that big story, of being that next Pulitzer Prize winner. And, like, that's something now that's, like, as I'm entering the industry and, like, taking on these spaces that have been inhabited by people for decades, that it's like, no, like, I own this story, I own what I cover, I own the community that I do, and I own what I do because I know I'm good at it. And I think just, like, having that confidence is hard, like, as a whole other conversation, like, as a young woman entering these spaces, it's like, that's not innate. It's like, you're not told to have that confidence, and, like, you're told that it's, like, comes off as pompous or, as, like, bragging or whatever, but it's like, you know you're good at what you do. I think, like, that's definitely something that's like, no, for the rest of my career, I will hear my editor's voice, I think, in my ear saying, like, you can take on the biggest story at this paper, and that's just, like, the most empowering thing to feel.
Continuing with what you love, what is next for the both of you?
I actually started my first full-time reporting job a couple weeks ago. I'm about a month in now. I'm an innovation reporter at the Boston Business Journal. So I'm right down the street from Suffolk, which is just so exciting on its own too. Now I get to be a local alumni. But I love it. I'm reporting full-time on startups and everything new and next in Boston business, which is like a lot of kind of our generation busting into that industry, and kind of people trying to solve problems in creative ways, and it's incredible. I'm loving it. I can't believe I feel so lucky to be able to call myself at the end of these 4 years like a professional journalist. It's just like, I still get chills from it.
For me, I'm still in the interviewing stage, so it's this terrible feeling time, but it's so exciting because it's what you want to do and being on the brink of that. Right now I'm interviewing with The Chronicle, Channel 5, and then also I'm hoping to continue with NBC Boston. We're the digital unit, so I'm in the final stages, so yes.
Yes, best of luck, best
Thank
of
you
luck,
so much.
of course. And my final parting question to both of you is, what advice could you give to students like me who will hopefully be entering the field in the next few years?
That's such a heavy question. I would think back to keeping the people first approach and being yourself, entering this field, because there's so much space for people who want to be in journalism or news or media. I think it's all warped into one now, what we're seeing, and that at the end of the day, we want creativity. I think that's what I'm seeing throughout my experiences in the field and internships, and that there's not necessarily one way to report news or write news. So continue being creative and continue showing up. And if they don't let you show up, bring a folding chair. 'Cause you can never be late on news. Yeah.
Yeah. I would say just like stay curious is my biggest piece of advice. Like there is so much to learn, and like I think the best part about being a journalist is that you know that you're signing yourself up for a lifetime of learning. Like something new every day, a new topic every day, a new story every day. But especially as a college student and as a student journalist, like staying curious and like trying things out, being willing to fail. Like college is the perfect place to like go big or go home, try the new thing out. Like so little is on the line comparatively from when you're like out there in the real world then. So like make the big choices, like make the big decisions, and just stay curious and chase your passion. It's like if it's here, wherever else it is, it's like just like stay focused, and it's so worth it at the end of it.
Well, thank you both so much. I mean, this was just an amazing conversation. I feel like so excited to sometime be where you both are in the seat. So, Chlorine, Marin, thank you so much, and congratulations on your graduation.
Thank you so much.
Of course, and thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time on The On-Ramp.